Now we're going to study perimeter, circumference, and area of four particular shapes here. We've got the square, the rectangle, and really, a square is a type of rectangle. A square is a rectangle where all the sides are the same length. A triangle and a circle. Okay. Now, so I'm going to start off by talking about the rectangle. And this is all stuff you've seen before, but we're going to talk about the perimeter and the area of a rectangle. And everything I say about a rectangle applies to a square. Okay, so let's suppose we've got a rectangle here, and let's suppose that the width is 2 and the length is 4. And we want to talk about the area. Okay, so the area. Well, if you think about it, what we do here is we look over here and we notice, okay, I've got 2 of these squares here. Okay, so that's the width. I've got 2 of them. Okay, and then I've got, how many columns of 2 do I have? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. In other words, whatever the length is. So my area is 2 times 4, 8. 8 square units. And if you look here, if you look inside, you can count those, right? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There. So we've got 8 square units. And that's what the area is. Now, we could also talk about the perimeter. The perimeter is just the distance around. And you just count that. You've got, so here it goes, the perimeter. The perimeter, you've got 2, okay, plus 4, plus 2 more, plus 4. So we just add these up, and it works out to be 2 times the width plus 2 times the length. And we get 4 plus 8 equals 12. There we go. So the distance around is 12. And you could just count those. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, like that. Yeah, there it goes. And let me erase all these. Remove the clutter. Okay. So here we have the area equals length times width, and the perimeter equals 2 times width plus 2 times length. Yeah. And you can see that would still apply to the square. But if you've got a square, this length times width is just one of the sides squared. That's the area. Okay, now, so there's a rectangle and a square. Now, let's suppose that I do this. Let's suppose that I cut this rectangle in half. Okay? So I just cut it in half, and let's suppose I just want to look at this half over here. Okay? Just this half. So I want to look at this triangle right here. Okay, so now I've got a triangle, and let me go ahead and draw it down here. It's got, you go up 2, and then over here 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I could ask you, okay, well, what is the area of that triangle? And, of course, it's just 1/2 of the rectangle. That's what triangles are. You can think of them as 1/2 of rectangles. So this is 1/2 of the length times width. Now, usually, and by the way, this is a right triangle. Now, usually, they'll talk about, instead of length times width, they'll talk about base times height. So what we'll do is we'll think of this right here as the base. And what's perpendicular to it right here, we'll think about that as the height. So the height's going to be perpendicular to the base. So the area is 1/2 base times height. Or in this case, 1/2 of 4 times 2 which is 1/2 of 8, which is which is 4. Now notice the area of the rectangle was 8. So yeah, that's consistent. Now of course, now we want to get the perimeter. Now the perimeter is a little bit more challenging here because we have this thing right here. We have this slanted line. So I'm going to have to get the distance of that line. Okay, so that's going to take a little bit of effort. But the perimeter of the triangle, let's just see if we add it all up. We have the base plus the height plus this thing I'll call C. That's going to be our perimeter. Okay, and let's see how they've got it up here. Yeah, they got it labeled the same way. So what I've got to do, so I've got to figure out what C is. Well, let's just use the distance formula here and calculate that. You notice I've got a point up here and a point here. I can find the distance between these 2 points. I'll call this point 0, 0. And this point over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. I'll call this point 4, 2. Okay. So see, I'm thinking that I've got that the origin is over here. See, so I've got the X and the Y, and I'm just thinking, okay, I'm going to start here at 0, and I go over 4 and up 2. See, so here's over 4 and up 2. Now I just use the distance formula, or the Pythagorean theorem in this case, because it's a right triangle. But C is equal to the square root of 4 minus 0 squared plus 2 minus 0 squared. See, remember the distance formula? Distance equals the square root of x2 minus x1 plus y2 minus y1. Yeah, there's the distance formula. So let's see what we got here. We got 16 plus 4, and that's the square root of 20. Yeah, that's it. So the perimeter is going to be 4 plus 2 plus the square root of 20. Now, I don't really worry about simplifying the radical very much. The square root of 20, just leave it. Because, see, I could simplify it as, well, 2 square roots of 5 if I wanted to, because square root of 20 is square root of 4 times 5. And then I could say, well, the square root of 4 is 2. I could do that, but I don't really have a good sense of approximately what is that number. You know, it's 2 square roots of 5. But if I talk about the square root of 20, I know that's a little bit bigger than the square root of 16 and a little bit less than the square root of 25. So in other words, I know the square root of 20 is between 4 and 5. So I just like to leave it. Unless it's a perfect square, I just leave the radical in there. Okay. Now, let's suppose, let's look at this next one. Let's look at, so we've got the rectangle and the square, and let's look at the circle. Okay, so the circle. Okay, here we go, circle. We've got the circumference of the circle, the distance around the circle is 2 pi r. In other words, if we unravel the circle, so let's suppose we've got a circle. Whoops, that's not a circle. Let me see if I can draw a circle. Okay, there, recognize it. And let's suppose I unravel this circle, okay? So I just unravel it. And let's suppose here's the radius. If I unroll this circle and lay it out here, this distance is 2 pi r, whatever the r is. So let's suppose that r is equal to 3. Then the circumference is 2 pi times 3, which is 6 pi. And just leave the pi in there. No need to multiply that out. Okay. So there we have it. That's the circumference. Now the area of the circle is pi r squared. So in this case, the area would be pi times 3 squared, which is 9 pi. So these are a couple of formulas that you need to, you need to have these memorized. These are, you'll never regret memorizing the circumference and the area of a circle formulas. Okay, now let's suppose that, let's just look at some problems here. Let's suppose that let's suppose that we have a triangle here. And we'll just disregard the grids here. Let's suppose that this down here is 07 and this up here is H. Okay. Don't think these grids reflect anything. This is just part of, my paper here. So let's suppose that the area is 1/2. And by the way, just to make this simpler, let me make this 8. Okay. So area is 1/2 base times height. That's what the area is. Now, you might say, well, I don't know what H is. Well, let's suppose we do know what the area is. Let's suppose that the area, let's just say this. Let's suppose that the area is 36 square inches or whatever. Now we want to find H. So see, this time we're not finding the area, we're finding H. So here's what we've got. We've got 36 equals 1/2 of 8 times H. Now that gives us 36 equals 4H. And that gives us H is equal to 36 divided by 4, which is 9. Right? So H is equal to 9. Now dig this. So area equals 1/2 8 times 9. So that would be 4 times 9, which would be 36. Okay, we just did a little algebra there. Okay, now these are the types of problems that we need to be able to work. Now I want to come down here to the assignment, and you can see what we have. We have simple perimeter and area problems. Okay, we have using the for rectangles, triangles, and for circles. Down here we have to use the distance formula. Okay, you can see that. Then down here we're having to find missing parts. Okay. Okay, so we're trying to find B down here. And then we've got some of these word type problems where it says the area of a rectangle is 18 square inches. The length of the rectangle is twice the width. So in other words, the length is 2 times the width. So if we're talking about the area of a rectangle, well, it's length times width. And the area, the length is twice the width. So really we've got 2 widths times width. And it says the area is 18. Okay, so we've got 18 equals 2w squared. See, we just substitute. Divide out the 2 and we get 9 equals w squared. Well, if w squared equals 9, then w must equal 3. Okay? Okay, so that's the way these problems down here are set up. And if you have any difficulty, just let me know. But that's how we proceed with these.